Um, so yeah, a happy new year to everyone. And I think as we were just discussing then, there's it's a mixed time of year, Christmas. It's a bit of a mixture of extremes. We have the elements of Christmas, all the joy of giving and receiving gifts. And then there's the contrast of the financial pressures and these sort of sense of comparison that come up. And we have the expectations versus reality, how we think things are going to go. And then, of course, all the unforeseens that come up, which regularly come up in life. And then there's all the family stuff as well, and the good and the bad that goes with that. And of course, most of us sort of love our families, but there's often some complicated relationships, maybe being forced to be around people that you're not usually around for the sake of family. And that can create some difficult emotions and situations. So amongst all the good, there's also this other side, where it can be quite challenging. And just acknowledging as well what we're living through at the moment as well can be quite stressful. In the background, we have, especially in the UK at the moment, there's these NHS and rail strikes, and it's just this sort of background uncertainty that goes with that. And then there's like more globally, we've got these, the climate change, we've got more of these variants of COVID emerging, and the uncertainty that goes with that. And then, of course, all the trauma and war stuff going on as well. So it's just helpful to acknowledge that as these background stresses going on. And more directly in our personal lives, there may be financial or work problems or family or relationship challenges that don't just pause for Christmas time. So while this can all be a very positive time and a lovely time of year, it's also helpful to recognize when we might not be feeling in complete alignment with this huge social expectation that everything's happy and bouncy and lovely, because we're still carrying a lot of the unease of whatever's going on in our lives and around us, within us as well. And I think one of the key things is it's remembering that we're not the only one feeling these things. So quite often I feel we have to merge with the general consensus, and we feel like we've got to join in and be positive and fun, but actually we're feeling like not quite there. And there's probably quite a few people who are feeling not quite there. So there's this idea that everyone else is okay, and there's something a little bit wrong with the way I'm feeling. And we're going to have a few quotes in today's session. And the first one is from the slightly neurotic Charlie Brown. And his quote for New Year's is, "You know how I always dread the whole year? Well, this time I'm only going to dread one day at a time." I think we can, in our more neurotic moments, relate to that feeling. So bringing that into the theme of this week's newsletter, and this is in the light of setting goals and resolutions, making changes. Um, with the area of mindfulness, we can start looking at or becoming aware of where we're operating from when we're making these goals, when we're setting these resolutions, and looking at perhaps why it's so easy to run out of gas or fall short or to let them fall by the wayside. Now, there's a very technical side of goal setting, which involves making plans. If you've heard of SMART goals before, it is a skill and it does work. There's changes we want to make, whether to lose weight or learn an instrument, a foreign language, whatever it is, we pin our, we use the new year and we go, right, that's what I'm going to do this year. Or it might be making changes about ourselves. So that's the technical side, is this kind of logistical planning. But then there's this other side to it, which we don't often address, is the motivational side. And this is where is our reason for wanting to do this coming from? And when we look at all the things I've just spoken about, there's a real sense of, occupying quite a lot of our background noise is unease. There's a sense of not feeling quite safe. There's a lot of uncertainty, perhaps a feeling of disconnectedness and not quite good enough. And when we're operating from those areas, if we're making goals based on that, then that's going to be the energy that feeds our goal. So if we're looking at making positive changes from a perspective or an energy of less than, then it's very easy to then see why these goals don't have any staying power, because we're starting from a negative space already. It may be that we forging goals from a real true sense of our own understanding of our values and our true needs. But more often than not, there's this connotation of social expectation of needing to fit in, or there's some sort of avoidance of being who we are or feeling like we're not quite enough. And these can stem from fear, desire or craving, possibly even things like jealousy. And we may find that we're often moving in our day-to-day life and even in setting goals, either towards or away from certain experiences. We're psychologically moving all the time. And we're trying to attain that sense of feeling like finally I've made it, or finally I feel like I'm good enough or I'm okay. But I think we can all relate to that feeling of getting there and, oh, it's not quite what I expected. Because generally what we're setting these goals for isn't what we're receiving from them. What we want is this feeling of acceptance, of feeling good enough. And what we get is some external factor. And then that soon washes away and it's replaced by the next one. So in mindfulness, we find that we can get a little bit closer to this feeling of enough, of this acceptance, when we slow down and when we stop. And when we start to learn about what's really going on inside of us and what's going on in our own needs with our own intuition. So the next quote is an anonymous quotation from the internet, but it does really tie in with this theme. And it's, every year you make a resolution to change yourself. This year, make a resolution to be yourself. Now, that might mean different things for everyone, but it's a nicer flavour for me than the rest. So we're going to go into the practice now. So we're going to do basically quite a deep check-in, and just follow along to the best of your ability. We're going to go through a breathing and settling process. And then we'll just start looking at different aspects of ourselves, whether it's our thinking, feeling, any sensations. And just getting to know ourselves a bit better and seeing if we can hold some of those feelings and thoughts without feeling like we have to grip them tightly or let them go. Just seeing if we can hold on. Now, one more quote before we start by the Buddha. It's a New Year's quote, but it's really applicable to the practice of mindfulness. And it's, no matter how hard the past, you can always begin again. So sometimes we get halfway into the practice and we feel like we're just not there. We feel like we've missed it. We've missed the start, so we've missed the whole thing. So just remember, this is completely open-ended. At any time when you drop in or drop out, just notice that this is what's happening. I've been lost in distraction for the last 10 minutes, or I've been in and out of distraction for the last 10 minutes. None of it is wrong. It's all just this experience of being here and being with ourselves and and going through this practice. And again, whatever we're going through here will be shared by so many other people when we get into the practice. So just finding a posture. We've got a lovely new addition to the repertoire. It's this lovely bell I got off a friend for Christmas. So just allowing the sound of this gong maybe just closing the eyes if that feels comfortable to do so. Just allowing ourselves and our bodies just to settle into this space. And as we set the intention for this practice, we're just aiming really just to check in as best we can. I'm going to spend around 20, 25 minutes, maybe a bit longer, just on a check-in. And if we can bring to mind any motivation for this practice, why are we here today? And remembering there's no right or wrong with this. Lots of things may come up or nothing may come up. And just coming to our posture again and just making sure that we're doing the best we can to keep a straight back. Allowing the spine to grow out of our seat. And just to hold us up and alert for this practice. Letting the shoulders drop away from the ears. Feeling the sense of our seat on the floor or our body on the chair. Whatever's supporting us. Seeing if we can just sink a little bit deeper into that support. That feeling of groundedness. And remembering at any time if we need to adjust our position to be more comfortable or be more alert, then doing so. And just coming to find our breath. So we're just noticing where we feel the breath the most in our body. What's the most obvious sensation of breathing? Maybe it's the feeling of air in and out of the nose. Maybe it's the feeling of air going through the throat with a light contraction and relaxation. Is the breath felt in the chest at all? The rising and falling of the chest, or maybe the expansion and relaxation of the belly? So, wherever it is we feel the breath, just going to narrow our focus and commit to just resting our attention on that area in particular. So, be it the nose or the throat or the chest or the belly. Or maybe there's a sense of the whole body breathing. Maybe we can't locate the breath at all. And just bringing that absence into our awareness and maybe allowing a different body part to become the focus. So we're just narrowing our attention like a torchlight onto that one area of the body. And we're making a commitment just to hold our attention there. And of course, the mind will move away from that area. And this is when we get to practice being mindful. So we can notice that where we've become distracted away from that breathing part. And we just gently rest our attention back onto the breath. So this is the game for now. We commit to focusing on the breath. We notice when we've become distracted. And we just gently bring our attention back to the breathing and rest it there again in that narrow focus. And it may be that we wish to deepen the breath slightly, so just offering a little bit of energy to the breath. And seeing if we can build a little bit of evenness with our in and out breath. Just noticing this flow of breath in and breath out. It may be helpful to count the breath in, so a 3, a 4, or a 5 on the in breath. And then just noticing the same count on the out breath. So we're not striving for perfection with this, it's just a general sense of building some even flow between the in and the out breath. Breathing lightly but fully. And if counting isn't for you, then saying a phrase like, I'm breathing in and I know that this is my in-breath. And I'm breathing out and I know that this is my out-breath. Can also help to even and settle the mind. Or you may have your own phrases. So whatever works for you. And remembering this doesn't have to be perfect, and we will become distracted. This is just how the mind works. So when we notice that we've gone off into thinking, then no need for any criticism. It happens to everyone. We just bring our attention back and rest it again on the breathing and again on the counting or the phrases. So just resting our attention on the breath with a gentle encouragement to even the in and the out breath. And noticing if the mind is chatting along or in some kind of commentary, whether it's commentating on what's happening now or the past or the future. So we're not trying to suppress these thoughts. We simply just bring our attention back to the breathing as best we can. And as we let go of the counting or the phrases, we can start to notice how the body feels with the breath. So how does it feel as we let go with the exhale? Remembering there's no right or wrong way with this, it's simply observing your own experience of the exhale. And seeing if you can feel it within the body. Maybe there's a sort of sinking into your seat, a feeling of relaxation or even holding on. Just coming more into that feeling of body, whatever that is for you. And continuing into that open sense of what it's like to have a body here. What sensations are available? What's the most obvious bodily sensation? Maybe it's tense jaw or tight neck or shoulders. Maybe it's a full belly. Maybe something achy knees or back. Maybe there's a felt sense of relaxation within the body. So we've got this feeling of our body being here in this space, and we've got this awareness of our breathing. And becoming aware also of our environment as well, the space around us. Any distractions or noises. I mean, what does it feel like to be here in this body, in this space? Knowing that there's no right or wrong answer, just your own experience. Maybe there's no available sensation. Maybe it's just a little bit of confusion. And if that's the case, then just noticing that. And we can bring our awareness now while we're in this sort of open state of awareness. We're aware of our breath and our body, and we're aware of the environment. Can we bring our attention to anything that might be at the forefront of our minds? What's on top? Is there any persistent thinking or rumination? Any judgment or commentary about what's happening within your experience now? And just seeing if we can allow that to be as it is. Sometimes it feels like we might expand to just allow the presence of whatever's going on in our minds just to be there. And if the mind is empty or there's confusion or not understanding, then that is the focus of our mind. And can we just allow that to be there? So there's no part of our thinking or thoughts or commentary that isn't welcome. Just allowing whatever's going through the mind just to move or stay still without any interference. Maybe there's some emotions that are present. Can we be curious about what we might be feeling right now? And curious and as honest as we can be. Again, no expectation that we should feel or be a certain way, just allowing whatever is present in our feelings or emotions just to be here. Giving it space. What might be the emotional charge of some of the thinking that's going on? How might our thoughts be affected by our feelings? What might be the connection? And picking up any sense of those emotions or feelings, if there is any, where might we feel them in the body? What's the bodily sensation associated with what's going on for us right now? Might be that sensation or pain or discomfort is the primary participant in our attention at the moment. And just seeing what happens when we soften our resistance to that sensation. If we can just welcome, in the best way that we can, welcome any sensation that might be present here. Maybe there's some residual anxiety in the chest or belly. Maybe some tension or stress in the shoulders. Maybe general feelings of heat or tightness. And can we meet those in whatever way we can with some form of kind acceptance? Giving space to whatever sensations are available. And if we become distracted at all, being aware of any criticism or judgment that we might voice to ourselves about it. Can we be aware of that moment when we realize that we've been distracted? What's the feeling tone or the thought process or commentary associated with that? Is there any sense of judgment that we're doing it wrong because we're distracted? And can we step back a little bit and notice how we feel about anything that's going on in that spectrum of bodily sensations or thoughts, emotions, feelings? What is our relationship to those experiences? How seriously are we taking our own thinking? What kind of underlying beliefs might sprout this kind of thinking? How sticky are these thoughts and experiences? How attached to them are we? So these stories, these thoughts, feelings, sensations, they're always moving through, they're always changing. How much are we investing into their permanence? Can we open up and just allow these experiences to have their own place, their own time, their own presence? And seeing if we can remind ourselves that anything that we experience, highs and lows and lefts and rights, throughout this practice and throughout our day, these are all really, really common experiences. You only have to scratch the surface to realize that we're all much more similar than we let on to be. Just becoming aware that we're heading towards the end of this practice now. Noticing if the mind kicks into a different gear or if we slip into a different role. And none of that's wrong. Just being aware of what's going on. It's sometimes helpful to bring our attention back into our body, maybe the hands or feet. And just starting creating a little bit of movement there. Maybe moving the shoulders and chest, head and neck. And allowing the sound again of the gong just to bring us back together, back into the group. And in your own time, opening the eyes if they've been closed.